Well, hello. My name is Bill Simpson. I'm at my cabin in scenic and picturesque Russell Gulch, Colorado. It's April 24th, 2020. What I'd like to do this afternoon is talk about some varieties of teleology. But let's begin with what Thomas Nagel says in his 2012 book, Mind and Cosmos. There, the author argues that in addition to physical laws governing the operation of primary forces on basic particles, this is a view that he calls reductive materialism, quote, there are also principles of self-organization or the development of complexity over time that are not explained by these elemental laws. That appears on page 59. And then further on in page 93, he says, I am not confident that this Aristotelian idea of teleology makes sense, but I do not at the moment see why it doesn't. Now, the result of all this is that if reductive materialism fails to provide a thoroughgoing account of natural phenomena, if teleological explanations offer a coherent account of biological phenomena in consciousness, then we must reevaluate the underlying assumptions about how we've been doing science. Now, this assertion led readers of the London Review of Books to vote Thomas Nagel's book, Mind and Cosmos, the most detested new book on science of 2012, and to a host of hostile reviews. But before we evaluate the justice or injustice of this reaction, I think it's important to get clear about what people have meant by teleology over the years. So let's start with the etymology. Teleology comes from the Greek word telos. And telos is a very rich word. It can mean completion, fulfillment, an end accomplished, or an end to be accomplished, something done or ordered to be done, an errand, performance through to an end. It means military rank in general. In sports, it can be a finish line. And so here's a picture of the telos at the stadium in Delphi, Greece. So, right from the beginning, telos has been a multifaceted term, but this shouldn't deter us or discourage us. Notice that Aristotle used different senses of the word is to solve the problem of predication in the categories. He noted that some uses of the word is indicate essential relationships. For example, Pat is a human being. Take away human and Pat ceases to be Pat. On the other hand, the word is can be used to assert an accidental relationship. For example, the funeral parlor is next door to the sausage factory, and we can only hope that this is a very accidental relationship. The upshot for Aristotle was that is was used in different senses, and in philosophy we'll say used equivocally, or we'll say used homonymously, like with most words, most of the time. Now, sometimes we encounter strong homonymies, when items have only the name in common. For example, bank meaning financial institution, or bank meaning a riverside. More frequently, we see weak homonymies, also known as family resemblances, also known as equivocal meanings, also known, as a friend of mine says, as coeur-dependent homonymies, or focal meaning. For example, we might see a statue and say, oh, that's Spiro Agnew, or General Grant, or Lucille Ball, what have you. And we should notice that, like with legal reasoning, what we get to discuss is whether something matches a profile or lays outside of it. For example, there is a 1996 case in New Zealand called Morley versus the Police that turned on whether or not a unicycle was a vehicle for the purposes of a statute barring vehicles from city parks. The judge decided that a unicycle wasn't a vehicle in that case. Another example might be if I showed you a picture and I said, show me a crosswalk, or tick every box where there's a crosswalk, tick every box where there's a car. And things get even more interesting when we're to rely on social cues or common social knowledge. And so, for example, if I showed you a picture and I said, tick every box that has a corpse in it, and the social cue here is that the Beatles were pretending to be a funeral party. And so we have one Beatle who's the grave digger, another Beatle who's the preacher, and a Beatle who's the undertaker, and a Beatle who's the corpse. So, tick the corpse.